Thank you for joining us here for this virtual session for the IPLSA conference for 2021. It's certainly a different year and a different conference than us being able to be with you in person. I'm Tom Bryant, a professional land surveyor with Seiler Instrument. I'm a geospatial sales for Southern Illinois.
And I'm Kelly Harris. I am the survey tech support manager for Seiler Instrument. I'm also a licensed land surveyor in 3 states. We're here today to talk to you about the future of land surveying, but we can't really talk about the future without first talking about the past.
And as Kelly said, we have a long history in surveying. When I started, it was a minimum of 3 people on a crew out there dragging a tape through the dirt, going all the way up to now until the myriad solutions that we've got for gathering mass amounts of data. And we don't know where that's going to go in the future.
Currently, I think if you look at where everything's heading, it is lots of data real quick. You've got scanners that are popping up all over the place. You got drones that are flying around everywhere. You got big data collectors to be able to store all this type of data. So, in my opinion, the future of surveying is just mass amounts of data in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think our customers would agree with that as well. And the more data you gather and the more data you have to analyze and use, the better decisions you can make. A better quality product they will turn out for their clients. To help us with that, we've enlisted 2 of our customer partners. One being TWM Incorporated from Swansea, Illinois,
and the other being Woolpert Incorporated with a corporate office in Dayton, Ohio.
And they're going to give us their opinions on where the future of surveying is headed. And we felt that would be more useful than us standing around talking about what we think the future will be, because they're the ones actually out there making a living doing it and gathering the data. As we've said a couple of times, we don't know what the future of surveying will be, but whatever it's going to be and whatever equipment it'll be used, rest assured that Seiler Instrument will be there to help with your geospatial needs.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Derek Twente. I manage a geospatial group for TWM. I'm excited to be part of this panel discussion. I appreciate Seiler asking me to join. Probably one of the scariest things that you can do is ask a land surveyor to give his opinion on something. So I should probably add a disclaimer to this presentation that the views and opinions expressed here is not necessarily those of Seiler or IPLSA. So I appreciate being a part of this topic, future of land surveying. There's really nothing earth-shattering here. We unfortunately we haven't discovered time travel or anything, but just kind of want to talk through some of the research experiences that we've had at our company. We spent the last probably 5 to 7 years researching and investing in new technology, looking to ways to capitalize on these investments, not only to supplement the services that we're currently doing, but in search of opportunities into new markets as well. So, when we're asked about the future of land surveying, this seems to be a pretty popular topic. You pick up any magazine, you read any blog, everyone's talking about the future of land surveying. Typically this reoccurring topic is somehow centered around the shortage of technicians or the shortage of licensed land surveyors. You hear statistics that the average age of a surveyor is over 60 years old. This is not an issue that's specific to Illinois. You read articles that millennials' outlook on surveying is that it's a dying profession. Many believe with the continuing advancement of technology, UAVs, scanning, that there will soon almost be no need for land surveyors. So if this isn't a major deterrent for the next generation to get involved into the profession, I don't believe that drones and scanners are going to wipe surveyors completely off the map. I do think that we, though, as surveyors, need to adapt and take ownership of these newer technologies and find ways to make them work for us. It's imperative if we're going to introduce the next generation into surveying, that these technological advances in our field is what's going to pique their interest. So, technology continues to evolve at an incredible rate. We attend a lot of technology conferences, and I mean, it can make your head spin. You could almost designate a full-time person just trying to keep up with, what's new, what's coming out. You want to stay on the leading edge, but not necessarily the bleeding edge. And I think, like most industries, most professions, land surveying is set to change in the upcoming years. So, when I tend to think of the future of surveying, though, I was at a conference and, I heard it said that data is the new gold. So data, like gold, is becoming more of a commodity. Not so much data collected in isolation, but data collected in mass data is the way it's manipulated and analyzed to get the most out of it. At this conference, they talked about it's the insight mined from this valuable resource that's the currency that's going to give your company organic growth. So if data truly will be the new gold in the future, those who have the tools in place to capture mass data, I believe, is going to drive that growth. You consider technology advances in equipment, with terrestrial scanners collecting over 2 million points per second, we can do 360-degree scans with images in a matter of minutes. The mobile mapping units, handheld, backpack, the vehicle mounted, we're able to capture data as fast as you can walk or drive at tolerances you would expect seeing using GNSS. You look at UAVs and the amount of ground that we're able to cover or capture. It's hard to compete with this. And the accuracy that we're seeing is impressive with the UAVs. For those that know what they're doing, the accuracy is very impressive. These technologies have quickly become game changers due to their ability to capture mass amounts of data. The faster you can collect it, the faster the clients are wanting the data delivered. We're seeing systems providing real-time point cloud data, which drives the need for this immediate results. We've seen this over the last few years, and it seems to be getting worse. But those who can deliver are excelling. This technology addresses capacity issues, able to collect more data with fewer people. Not to oversimplify it. You have a project that's 2 or 3 miles of topo, where before it was weeks of crews out there, boots on the ground, capturing this data with mobile mapping or terrestrial scanners or UAVs. We're able to capture this data within hours. So I mentioned earlier, I don't see these technologies eliminating the need for land surveyors, because I still think there's going to be a need for someone to manipulate and analyze this data, someone to help distinguish good data from bad data. As we continue to capture large amounts of data, I think the key is how this data is going to be analyzed. And I really think our GIS friends will play a major role in this. And I realize some would disagree, but I think as a profession, we miss the opportunity to embrace the GIS users, educate them on the principles of mapping. You look at even GPS. GPS used to be a tool used predominantly by land surveyors, and now contractors seem to be one of the largest user groups. Contractors don't understand error or poor PDOP, poor geometry for site calibrations. They don't understand grid to ground or how their data is being projected or what coordinates they're being projected to. We're seeing contractors, a lot of even mechanical contractors, running total stations now. It's not uncommon to hear that their total stations are more accurate than mine because their data collectors read to 4 decimal places. Not even having a basic understanding of air analysis or air propagation. Contractors are jumping on UAVs and LiDAR technology. But they need our help getting good data. I think this is where surveyors will play a role in the future. The advantages we have is that our understanding of constraining data and preserving accuracy and geometry and registrations. I think in the future, as a profession, we need to embrace new technology. Need to be prepared to utilize various technology to capture mass data. I think GNSS and total stations will still have their place, but I think they'll be subordinate to some of the newer technologies. And software is making it so easy now. You push a button, your data is uploaded to the cloud, and you come back in the morning and you have data. Not necessarily good data, but you have data. Low cost of entry on UAVs. Everybody's buying UAVs, right? But they don't know what they're doing with the data. My kids have a UAV, and they would sell you data if plus or minus 20 foot is good enough for you. Most people aren't getting accurate data. Most don't understand how to constrain to generate data within acceptable tolerances. I see this where surveyors playing a major role in the future. And I know some of you are thinking, talking about all this technology, but none of this is going to replace my boundary surveys. And I agree. And God love you, I don't think it's going to replace boundary surveys. But for our firm, boundary surveys isn't where the money's at. Boundary surveys isn't grabbing the interest of the next generation. I enjoy boundary surveys. It's what got me into land surveying. But I joke at our firm that it makes up 10 to 15% of our workflow and probably negative 5% of our profit. As I read about the digital cadastrals in other countries, sometimes I wonder if we'll ever end up with a similar system. I look at how our firm on some pretty basic boundary surveys will deliver a GIS database as part of the deliverable. You have a central storage place for all the data, the deeds, all of our subdivision plats, monument records, images that were captured. A lot of our monument records are being done right there within the database. Or how we deliver KMZ files. We have clients that want to be able to find their boundary surveys when we're not there, so we're providing KMZ files to them so that they can upload the data on their phone, walk right up to their property corner. So it makes you wonder. And and to back up there, there's other challenges associated with capturing large amounts of data. We do need more people to process this data, more people to analyze this mass data. And mass data can quickly become a burden on smaller firms, and without a doubt can stress your IT capabilities for most companies. These are all things that that you have to consider. If you're not currently offering these services, I don't think it's too late for you. But if they're not even on your radar, I think you'll get left behind. I think it's important for firms to develop a plan that fits your workflow. I get calls from other companies often, and they're asking what type of scanners I have, or what type of UAVs we have, or what we're using, what should they buy? And it really depends on what you're wanting to do with it, okay? What type of work you're looking to utilize the technology on. And it's a risk for some firms. It's an investment, but calculated risk can be a good thing, okay? So as you continue to look at how technology is going to be a game changer, I can't help but look at the autonomous vehicles. Seems like this will completely revolutionize so many industries. Construction sites running autonomous, over-the-road truck drivers, taxi cab drivers. As we get into the autonomous vehicles, I think you'll see mobile mapping units all over the place, collecting data constantly, which I think will open the door to digital twins, the smart cities, which is a virtual replica of a city, artificial intelligence, UAVs, Amazon, looking at delivering all their packages with UAVs. Before long, maybe you'll see privatized airspace even. Don't think Amazon hasn't thought of that when you're flying your UAV, you may be buying space from Amazon to do so. The advances with virtual and augmented reality, the LiDAR sensors on our phones now, I'm sure you guys have seen this. Just phenomenal real-time data. Accuracy isn't quite as well as what we're seeing with some of our terrestrial scanners, but it will continue to improve. IFC files containing Revit models into data collectors, and seeing on construction sites that crews are actually picking points from a model and laying them out. I say all this to say, as land surveyors, I do believe we'll still be called upon to collect this information, but also to convey meaningful information from these models back to the physical world. This data may provide an abundant resource for spatial information, yet also challenge surveyors to process it into something relevant. Cutting edge surveyors will have invested in these proven technologies to provide quicker and safer means of data capture. I think those that learn to master the powerful software programs that are used to extract this data will be the most competitive in the future. The law of ecology talks about for an organism to survive, it must grow at an equal or greater pace than its surroundings. I think the same is true for the surveying profession in the upcoming years. I think that we need to embrace change in technology, but understand it and make it work for us. If we must grow at an equal or greater pace in our surroundings, then we must be willing to adapt to the new technology. As technology continues to evolve, and it will at an incredible rate, I think that as a profession, we need to embrace these changes and set ourselves up for what the future of land surveying holds. Thank you.
Thank you to Seiler and IPLSA for the invitation and allowing Woolpert to be part of the 2021 IPLSA conference to share our opinions on the future of surveying. The opinions stated are our own and do not represent those of Woolpert and/or IPLSA. My name is Ross Chaloupka, and I am the survey technical advisor for Woolpert. I'm a licensed surveyor in the state of Kentucky, and I've been with Woolpert for 20 years. Please allow me to introduce the other members of our panel. Dave Kuxhausen is Vice President and Survey Discipline Leader at Woolpert. Dave is a licensed surveyor in North Dakota and Colorado and has been with Woolpert for over 20 years. Keith Tolison is a Senior Associate and Survey Team Leader in our Chesapeake, Virginia office. Keith has been with Woolpert for over 20 years. Jason Kail, an Associate and Senior Phase Manager in our Chesapeake, Virginia office. Jason has also been with Woolpert for over 20 years.
Thanks, Ross, and thanks again to the IPLSA and Seiler for providing this opportunity to Woolpert. This presentation is going to be our attempt to create an open forum and roundtable discussion focused on our industry's ability to remain relevant and productive in these times of exponential technology growth and advancement. We'll talk a little bit about the past. We'll talk a little bit about investment in technology, a little bit about adoption of technology. And like I said, I believe that it's important to talk a little bit about the past before we go to the present and the future, as our industry, land surveying, mapping professionals, has been around since 10,000 years ago. Technology has been a part of our business since the early times, whether you're talking about the Great Pyramids of Egypt to early Roman aqueduct construction, the Greeks and the development of geometry and trigonometry, standardization of different measurements, the foot, the vera, the meter, Gunter's chain, transit and steel tape, plane table surveying, then the invention of aerial photography, the theodolite, different EDMs. Oh my God, the GNSS system that's almost changed everything. CAD development, way different than manual drafting back in the day. And now we have massive size point clouds and terrestrial data that comes from scanner technology to low cost thermal mapping option, small cameras that are 10 times as powerful as something even thought about a few short years ago. So in my opinion, all of these things required us as an industry or us as professionals to make sure that either we're staying on the bleeding edge, the cutting edge, or whether you're just an early adopter. But you've got to morph and make these technologies available for you to stay relevant in the industry. So that's what I meant by talking a little bit about the history before we move to the present, because I feel like these are not new problems that the industry has faced. These are problems, they're not problems, they're challenges. These are not challenges that the industry has never faced before. I believe the only thing that's really changed fundamentally is the fact that it's exponentially faster now. I mean, if you think about it, there's only about 60 to 70 years between the moment man invented the airplane to when the next man's set on the moon. So that type of technology advancement has literally grown, and I use the word exponentially because it truly is. But we still as an industry and professionals in the industry have to understand how to harness technology, make sure it works for us, lure new people to the industry, and then make sure that we're getting a return on investment on that technology. So as we move into the present, I want to give it over to Keith a little bit to talk about recruiting and the viability of the two-man crew and the ability to stay relevant when in regards to fast, cheap, accurate. You guys have all heard the term fast, cheap, accurate, pick two. I still believe that's true because the cost of investment in technology is so great and the cost of entry is so high. So Keith, what do you think? What do you think is a good way to leverage technology in regards to recruiting and growing young professionals in the industry?
So first, Dave, I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for having us today as well. But on that note, so that has proven to come with its own set of challenges. You know, something that we had to take a step back and look at this and go, how do we lure in, you know, younger professionals into this industry? We've had to adapt. So we had to make a choice, and we actually looked at this. And is it going to be an opportunity or a challenge? Well, we took it as an opportunity. So instead of kind of looking at it and going, this is a challenge that's going to slow things down or whatever it be, we want to take it and make an opportunity to grow from. So how do we entice new younger talent to come on board? So one of the things we did, and it kind of changed everything for us, as soon as our recs that we put out looking for new talent, we had to change the verbiage in there. Once we changed that and we started talking about the new technology that we have, we got overwhelmed with resumes and people trying to get on board. We even had one of our recent candidates that we've hired that we started talking about our scanning abilities, UAS, all the different types of cool tools that are out there. Well, he's already built his own scanner from home, not using, you know, GPS Garmin and stuff, and he really got off on it. So, you know, those are the type of people that are really intrigued with the new technology, the way it's out there. So for us, we're looking at that, go, that is the future. So how do we get them in? That being part one. Part two, how do we groom them for the future growth? So now we're looking at it, and every time we get a new hire in here, and Dave and I have talked about this a lot, and I'm going, we have a lot of old school guys, but how do you train those people? That's comes with its own set of challenges. So we're looking at it going, the next generation is there, and we're committed to grooming and growing them. And, you know, a lot of them come in with a GIS background, which is going to be so important moving forward. You've heard that conversation a lot, but that's a big part of surveying moving in the future. So we're bringing in a lot of individuals that have that for a background to them. And they're seeing all these cool toys and stuff, and they're really excited about it. And me personally, in my location, you know, I've hired several of them. And then once they got their hands on some of this equipment, Dave and other groups stole them from me and positioned them somewhere else in the company because they, you know, they were just turned into be rock stars, and they're just excelling so quickly. They're adapting so quick. It turned out to be a really cool thing. Yeah. So, yeah, you know, and for me, I was a little hesitant at first. The first one we brought on, I'm going, doesn't have a whole lot of survey background, but let's give it a shot and see. It turned out to be a great thing for us. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I feel the same way, and I can expand on that a bit. The last requisition we opened was at one of our offices in the Midwest, and we did a little test, and we opened two requisitions. One was for a survey party chief that didn't focus a lot on technology, didn't focus on all the tools, the bells and whistles. And then the other requisition focused on UAS, mobile LiDAR, terrestrial scanning equipment, and the GNSS equipment that we had. We had 110 applicants on the technology one and 17 on the professional or on the crew chief one that didn't have as much focus on technology. So, you know, while we're talking about this, I truly do believe that technology is going to be a major factor in our ability to recruit young talent to this industry. This industry has always had cool tools, but the better job you do of showcasing those tools, the more successful you'll be luring that talent. So, I mean, that's just one of the things I think that we can talk about a little bit today with tech. What do you say, Jay? You've been around the industry a long time, and you certainly you've certainly been one of the early adopters and one of the people that vets some of this technology for our people.
Well, thanks, Dave. Once again, I want to thank everybody here for having us today. But one of the things I've seen over my career, and I watched a documentary about surveying a few months back, and one of the things they talked about was before data collectors, we didn't even have point numbers. Nobody cared about point numbers. That really came out as a function of data collectors, scanners, or not scanners, but the total station theodolites. Once we started having to store data digitally, we had to start worrying about point numbers, to now where we are today, where we're collecting 49 gigabytes. I was just on a project recently with one of our scanners, and we had 6 hours. We collected 49 gigabytes of data.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge challenge, but what an opportunity for us to figure out how we're going to store that data. What computing power are we going to have for computers? What are the time constraints we're going to have with our staff of how to get that data turned around and get it back out into our clients' hands? And with that comes our CAD techs and our survey techs in the office dealing with that data. They really need to become data analysts. They need to understand we don't need that data out there at 500 feet. How do we trust that data? When it comes to data fusion, do I trust the RTK? Do I trust the total station collected data? Or is LiDAR or mobile mapping a better option? They're transitioning to that data analyst from a button pusher to a data analyst and actually digging through and living in that data.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like those are some of the challenges associated with adoption of technology, and maybe we'll touch on a little bit of that right now. You touched on 60, 70 gigabytes of data when you just collect. And what you really were looking for was building corners, but we scanned a building. We got much more than that, and now we have the responsibility to update our server space, consider cloud computing. 64 gigabits of RAM on a computer isn't enough anymore. So, like I talked about earlier, the cost of early adoption could stymie someone's ability to do that. But you've got to make the concession if you want to stay relevant. And I think that Keith talked about GIS. We'll take it a step further, and I think the role of the land surveyor with technology has morphed from just a traditional cadastral land surveyor, boundary surveyor, to a data collector, a data steward. Subsurface utility engineering could be considered in there. Commodity data collection could be submitted in there. GIS, like Keith mentioned. It's a morph of all these different folks. And in my humble opinion, I feel the industry is alive and well, and the future's bright. We are surveyors, data collectors, technical experts, analysts, and more. We have the opportunity to guide and lead processes regarding any aspect of mapping the earth on, above, and below the surface. What do you guys think?
So on that note, though, I know one of the challenges that we've all talked about for years is, so how do we train younger talent? Well, this has actually helped us accomplish that task because of the new technology, because they're so intrigued by it. So we get them in here, and then we put them out there so they are learning it with the data collection portion in the field to eventually they will become in the office and have a greater understanding on how to process and handle this data. So that's helped on that front as well, too.
Well, the paradigm shift has been essentially for decades. It's been 70% field to do a project and about 30% CAD. And that's just throwing numbers out there. We're getting real close. What did that mean? We had to have 12 guys for every 2 or 3 guys in the office to actually process the data. Now we're looking at having 30% field work because we can quickly and rapidly and accurately map this data, and then turn around and have 70% of the office because it's that time to extract that information and deal with that data is going to be starting now in the present, and it's going to even be larger in the future.
And if I could tag on that too, one of the things that we've also encountered too, with those type of changes, we've hit them ourselves. People being reluctant to change, that's everywhere. And we've hit some of that as well too. But we've overcome them, and then once we come out the other side of that, then the whole team sees the value in that. It's made it more valuable to us and our clients as well too, to make us way more efficient. Challenges along the way, but we've overcome all of them with that though.
You know, the industry is guided by our clients too, and the buzzwords in the industry, from digital twins to 3D modeling, interior modeling, the software types, BIM, Revit, digital as-builts. You know, so when those clients are requesting some of this stuff, you're almost in a position where you're forced to adopt. If you want to stay relevant, you want to stay on the cutting edge, you're forced to adopt, but you've got to do it in a way that's affordable and that you're creating a return on your own investment, which is where I see a lot of people are looking at the sticker price of technology and the entrance into the game, if you will, of technology. And that's scary. That's scary. I mean, working with our partners at Siler, even with their wonderful discounts, you still have a pretty good price of admission to get in it. And I think it's important to start to think about how you put those pass-throughs down to your client. You've got to pay the bills.
Yes.
Yeah,
But again,
I will say,
go ahead,
Dave,
Ross.
back on what Jason said earlier about collecting his 49 gigs of data for a couple of building corners, and that leads back to a quote I saw somewhere. It says, surveying today and in the future is like a solution looking for a problem. Now, Jason's solution that he used to collect his building corners is some severe overkill, but we already know that we have that solution, and we have identified niches and clients that could be use of that scan data. So we're not just collecting our building corners, but we have other places we know we can use this data for.
Certainly. I mean, I think in that case alone, I mean, the traditional way to do that from an architectural standpoint would be to send a team of architects and have them all have tape measures and plans and stuff they could cut up and notepads, and they would literally go measure windows. They would measure ceiling heights. They would count the number of HVAC systems that are in there. That can all be done using that 60 gigabytes of data, but that's another opportunity for surveyors using technology, and cutting our piece of the pie would be to understand how to manipulate that data, process that data, and harvest the information you need for your client to make sure you're creating a deliverable development that isn't overkill for what they asked.
So
Well,
Dave,
we don't even know.
tag on to that too. Architects are still doing what you described right now. Present
I
day,
know.
they
I
are
know.
still out there with tape measures today doing that same thing. But go ahead, Kail. Sorry.
We don't even know what that data can be mined for. The data I just collected was part of the collection process. There's windows that need repair. There's all kinds of items. It was a high school, and it's fell into disrepair, and they could take this data. And we have collecting imagery and data, point cloud data, that now can be reviewed by an architect or an engineer and go, oh, wait a second, you got window issues, or hey, there's some really bad. The mortar in between the bricks is looking really, subpar. We need to focus on that. So we don't even know what our clients could use our data for at this point.
And they don't
That's
need,
exciting.
and they don't
Yeah,
need,
and they don't either.
They don't either.
right.
So yeah, I think it creates a unique opportunity. Technology creates a unique opportunity for us in this business to make sure that we, like I continue to say, we're carving more of that piece of the pie. I've heard the naysayers say, pretty soon surveyors are just going to be data collectors and we're not going to need you anymore. Well, my term is data is only good as the day you collect it. So who's going to continue to collect it? Yeah, we've got mobile cars that are going to start collecting a lot of roadway data for self-driving vehicles. We've got satellite imagery, still only as good as the day you didn't collect it. And then you have the issue of accuracy. So surveyors are always going to have an obligation to the industry to vet accuracies, manipulate data, error propagation. Those are mathematics that are a core part of our business. And I don't see them going anywhere. Regardless, the technology may make the data collection easier, but you still have to manipulate the data to make sure that your client is getting your best product.
Well, to pivot on that, Dave, the way we deliver data, has that changed since the early 1900s? It's still a plan. Before it was hand drawn on a piece of paper, and now it's delivered in a plan set, exported out of MicroStation of AutoCAD. But now we have an opportunity now and in going to the future to help our clients accept data in a different format, whether it be a point cloud, a 3D model. We've had clients, just in the last 10, 15, 20 years ask for the DEM models and all these things, and now they can handle these larger and larger data sets. Well, our clients are going to be able to handle bigger and bigger data sets going further too. They're doing the same, they're going to have the same challenge on the engineering side that we have on the surveying side. And as they get better, we'll be able to provide them a different solution that's not just a set of plan sheets.
I would agree. I think the biggest challenge for me with technology is making sure that you continue to adopt it, because it goes so fast now. The moment you slow down, you get past.
Yeah.
And like I said, the future for me, segueing into the future after talking about what we deal with on a day-to-day basis, regarding the young professionals, we still have an obligation to our employees to make sure we're setting them up for success. Those young kids coming into the industry, men and women coming into the industry, those future surveyors need to have a mentor relationship with as a mentee. We see an industry shift to these one-man crew scenarios because of technology so easy to collect data and you don't need the two-man. Well, I would argue that in fact, you still need to produce a senior employee to make sure that the new hires are following in some sort of footstep, understanding the fundamentals of our business, right? So that you're not a button pusher. You understand the mathematics and the why behind the glass.
That's important to know.
It is, and to add on to that, something else that helps create that environment is, cost competitive. Everybody's going after projects and we're trying to reduce our costs, and you wind up with one-man crews out there. So you can win projects and keep people going. But then we've all talked about it before. And how do we train the next surveyors up and coming behind all that? So you have to make that commitment to that. Sorry.
When you talk about a one-man crew and transitioning back to a two-man crew, surveying, it's going to be a necessary for us to all have a wider variety of skills. We're going to have to be able to do UAS, mobile mapping, targets for mobile mapping, run the scanners, whether they be terrestrial, handhelds, but still do those fundamentals, those basics, the 3, 4, 5 triangle basics. What we learned in day one out there on your first day of surveying, those are still important, and they really need to focus. We need to focus on teaching those young folks coming into the industry. Those strong technical foundations are still going to be required.
They were certainly very valuable in my career path. I could tell you that. Without that mentee-mentor relationship, I certainly wouldn't have grasped the technology even back then as quickly as I was able to. I think, touching on that solution, looking for a problem, I think that someone could misconstrue that as technology is the problem. Well,
yeah.
I don't think so. In my opinion, and I think in closing, guys, unless you have anything else to say, I think in closing, in my humble opinion, technology provides us with a platform to recruit new tech-savvy employees hungry for opportunities. They want to touch, feel cutting-edge tools, as do all of us on this phone call, even still today. It's coupled with the ability to meet the needs and wants of the new progressive workforce. I mean, these young folks grew up on technology. I mean, I'm holding this phone here that has more power than the Apollo mission. I've got a workforce that their biggest lure is technology. So we've got to harness that as an industry and make sure that we're creating a positive growth curve for our industry. In addition, And I think one thing we kind of touched on was the importance of good business acumen. It's certainly a very important topic of discussion that we don't have a lot of time to touch on. But when it comes to technology adoption and investment, particularly to the ability to create asset recuperation models, you've got to remain on the cutting edge. You've got to continue to position yourselves to have the ability to both train new talent and invest in those new products. So whether that's creating a depreciation schedule and understanding how to recoup over the life of that asset, or something as simple as your vehicles. I mean, you've got to pay for those too. So it all comes down to me is to create a good asset recuperation model when you're thinking about investing in GNS technology or scanning technology or mobile mapping. So like I said, in closing, and in my opinion, the keys to success for our survey industry, and I got five bullet points, I suppose. I could go on for a while because I do believe that technology is something we need to really adopt and harness. But I think some of the keys are adoption of mobile mapping technology and scan technology, because I truly believe that's where the industry is going to go, whether that's handheld, vehicle mounted, or airborne methods. I believe that's integral to our ability to stay relevant. I also think that we should be the ones guiding those discussions regarding accuracy, error propagation, know-how to use to utilize those massive data sets produced by the technology. They're simple, but we need to help our clients understand that we can glean simple solutions out of very complex methods. I also think that employing technology to produce digital twins and simplified data to harvest information supporting change detection and design grade models is certainly where the industry is going, especially with scan technology. And I also think that employing cutting edge technology to create safer and more efficient environment for our workforce. I mean, in fact, these two gentlemen here, Jason and Keith, work out of our Chesapeake, Virginia office, where traffic is a major concern for our workforce when we talk about keeping people safe. And we've implemented a lot of new scanning technology to make sure that we're not putting our folks in the traveling public lanes. And lastly, we all need to continue to expand our knowledge base to encompass all aspects of mapping, from the math and science to the history and evidence. So I'm talking cadastral surveyor all the way to GIS technician and unmanned aerial system operators. So unless you guys have anything to add in closing, I think that this has been a good platform to create a discussion. And I hope that when this thing goes live, we can all get back on here and do a little Q&A. And I hope that our experience with technology can help you leverage technology. Again, I want to thank the IPLSA. I want to thank Seiler. I want to thank Keith Tolison, Jason Kail, and Ross Chaloupka for joining me on this. And in closing, that's it. Goodbye from Woolpert. We're very pleased to be part of this presentation. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to thank TWM and Woolpert for helping us out. I also want to thank everybody for joining us in this virtual session during these strange times. Once again, I'm Kelly Harris with Seiler Instrument.
Tom Bryant with Seiler Instrument. Thanks for joining us, and our contact info will be on the screen below. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us.